Ayo, what's outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. The vortex. They look outside themselves, trying to know themselves. Peace. Big CYC here again with another episode on the Verbal Vortex Show. I have two amazing guests with me. Do you mind stating your names for the people that are watching out there? I'm Kevin.
I'm Chris.
Dopeness. And let me just get my my questions and all of that here, because I plan for it to be how should I say to you? I wanna set the scene first. That's what I wanna do with what we're doing right now. And opening and setting the scene with these questions will be like well, but let me just ask the question. The first one is, what does Black history mean to you, both personally and politically? And how has your understanding of it evolved over the years? You want to go, Chris?
Sure, yeah. For me personally, Black history is world history. I didn't really have that sort of knowing or knowledge of Black history. The sort of Black history that I understand now and what I have learned over the years in terms of like reading books and listening to lectures and discussions, for me it was more about the civil rights at the time. That's what I sort of learned at school. Obviously the MacArthur transatlantic slave trade. So I didn't really have an understanding. I think my mother would talk about things relating to her tribe. My father would talk about things relating to his tribe, but it was never really extensive understanding of what Black history was. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was the sort of commercialized version of it. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and it was sort of left there. I think in my mid-20s, I started to ask more questions. I started to meet a lot more people, and they sort of presented information to me about myself. Mm-hmm. I live in a majority white country, and there were situations where I was made to feel othered or different. I clearly do look different. I clearly am different. My heritage, my culture. I needed to learn more about that and understand. So it was sort of like a personal journey I took upon myself to sort of have more of an understanding and learn more about Black history. That's on a personal level. Mm-hmm. The follow-up question, was it more to do with politically?
Well, it says personally and politically.
Yeah.
Has it evolved? So? Okay,
so personally it's evolved in that way where I've learned that, that personal journey. Politically, I think nothing has really blossomed. I think we've seen things within politics. We've seen things, and what I mean by within politics is Kemi Badenoch, first Black MP, Barack Obama, first Black president, things like that, all right? So, but I haven't really seen the dynamic totally shift in regards to the accomplishments that I understand and things that I've learned about being taught. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they've introduced, they put on the curriculum in schools, the Benin Empire. In reception, I believe children need to learn about Africa, which is good. So these things are good. So there are slight changes that are being made, but I haven't. Again, the rose hasn't fully blossomed, and I'm not saying it has to be some sort of like dictatorial, like overtaking of Black history over white history. But those sort of things I've seen, occur, within the sort of parameters of where I've been which is education. And I see that as a good thing. That's positive, you know. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, you know, Black history for me has been a strange journey. It sort of happened organically. I wasn't in a good place at one stage, living in a hostel in Tottenham, ultra broke, growing dreadlocks. It was quite a weird time for me. And for some reason I picked up a book. I went and bought a book from Stroud Green Road. The bookshop's gone now. Black People in the British Empire by Peter Fryer. Now, sitting down day in and day out reading this book on my balcony, you know, it's strange that coming from a background, and I didn't acknowledge it, I've always seen myself as a black man. But later on, identifying that I'm mixed race and that I'm half Asian and being genetically being 56% Asian, later on caused some conflicts for me, but I'll come back to that. But reading Black history and seeing the atrocities that had gone down, and you know, the starting point for me from school was like roots and the triangular slave trade. So I already had a feeling about my self-identity, yeah, and also with the sort of in the 1980s, how society was and how television was racist as hell. So whether you were seeing Jim Davison or programs like Mind Your Language or Love Thy Neighbour, there was always these racist, I was going to say connotations, but it was blatant racism that you sort of accepted. But once I started reading Peter Fryer's book and having a understanding more of the treatment of black people over time, the atrocities, the mutilation, and how systemically things started being constructed, my world started changing and I started seeing the world in a different way. And I was quite upset that I wasn't privy to this knowledge in any formal realm of education. But as time went on and I started reading, that journey became something of I felt it in my heart. And then I started seeing society in a way where there was more than one layer. Before I was just existing, yeah. But now there was layers to society, and how people dealt with you. I mean, everyone's experienced it. What's strange about existing as a black person in society? It's only when you go through certain experiences you understand what's going on. People can't identify with it because it's not happening to them. So I was Black history gave me an opening into this sort of clarity of the dimensions and dynamics of like interpersonal relationships, what goes on in institutions. So I was like, you know, you go through this journey and there's part of you that you read and you're excited and saying, oh my God. And then there's part of it where you start feeling depressed and upset about the treatment of a set of people. But as time went on and I started understanding, gathering and understanding myself about what was going on, and then working in education later on, I started seeing disparities all over the place in regards to treatment, whether in the criminal justice system, in the healthcare system, all across the board. It doesn't matter where it is. And then for me, understanding that there were disparities, always an underrepresentation at the top levels of everything, I started wondering what was going on and how we've been treated. So I had this drive, I started getting this drive, especially working in education, to start educating the kids on their own history, because they're not getting it anywhere. You know, being able to have a better feeling of self-identity, self-esteem and self-worth is all encapsulated in you understanding your history. I think it was Maya Angelou that said, if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going, something like that. But that happened to me. I didn't really know where I was going properly until I found Black history. And I know there's a lot of young people out there that are not exposed to Black history. So finding their way in society and have an understanding to be able to navigate socially, establishing the best outcomes from isn't easy unless you know what we've been through, and the steps you need to take to get to that place of righteousness or fulfillment or whatever. So that was me, really. It's done a lot for me. My kids, I teach a lot of black history to, and I can tell it's done a lot for them. Now, politically, it's made me see society and political infrastructures in a different way. Understanding oppression differently, understanding discrimination, racism, and things like racism that are ubiquitous. It's happening everywhere all the time at the same time, you know. And for us to have to navigate social space is difficult for us daily, and we have to put up with things on a regular basis. And we experience black fatigue, yeah, and that's why black people are succumb to certain health conditions. But so for me, the political realm and the historic realm and the social realm are all one. It all encapsulates the same thing, and we all got to navigate through this space as black people in a particular way to end up being okay. There's a drive in me to educate more people and train people about what's going on, and like Chris said, black history is everyone's history. For it's multiculturalism, it's filling in the gaps of normal human history. Its omittance for me is upsetting. Black History Month is upsetting. But we have to move to a place where it becomes actually a part of human history. Right. Now, for black kids and black people generally, like I said, the self-esteem, the self-worth, the self-identity. But then for people of other ethnicities, it breaks down racial barriers. You can see the resilience in people and what they've put up with. Also, you can they can establish a sense of empathy, understanding another person's history, which is ultimately their history as well. So, you know, it does a lot for everyone, and it's done a lot for me.
Okay. When we talk about the African diaspora, how important is it to identify as one global black family rather than fragmented by nationality or region?
You want to go, Kevin, or
You can go.
yeah? Okay. That's incredibly complex, and there's a lot of we have to dissect, you know, different themes that have happened and occurred over like history. Okay, because if we're talking about the African family across the world, we are all separated, but we can all identify it as one thing, which is black. Okay, so from other people's experiences, this might be listening to other people's stories or listening to people talk from other countries. They're able to express something that you can relate to, where they may be a part of this country, but they don't feel like nationally they belong to that country because they are looked at as being othered. Okay, so we're all related, it's all relatable. Yep, he's black, she's black, he's from there, she's from there, but we can all relate under that one banner of blackness. Now, this is the issue for me, where we have our own interpretation of what blackness is. Okay, I think when you look at, is it the UNIA, right? What Marcus Garvey was trying to do, okay, in terms of like Pan-Africanism, that ideology over time hasn't disintegrated, but it's morphed into something else. It's turned into something else, and I just feel as if I just feel as if with that, that's something that will never die. That fire will never burn out. I think Pan-Africanism still holds strong as an ideology, as a belief, because you can never kill an idea. You can never dismantle that idea. That idea of black unity across the globe, across the diaspora, is needed. Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, the difference is that I believe the way people operate, although it isn't consciously spoken about, but subconsciously it's sort of displayed within society, is through pride for your group. Everybody holds a level of pride for their racial group. Now, whether you want to, we can sugarcoat it and we can candy floss it as, you know, we're all a diverse society, and yeah, personally, I don't feel as if everybody consciously makes that effort to sort of want to go out of their way to understand things about your culture and who you are. Okay, all right. I think that in this day and age, that ideology of Pan-Africanism is well needed.
Yeah.
In order for us to be able to move forward. Yeah, it's one of the only solutions that we have in terms of collective unity. We are a fractured people. Black people are fractured, and we have to be really honest about that. Okay, like we might want to display things of like black excellence, this and that, but that's more on an individual basis. That's more of an individual, you know, I've managed to accomplish this, I've managed to achieve this, but collectively, still lowest on the economic totem pole in terms of the black family structure. It's incredibly fractured. Do you know what I mean? Our attainment level in terms of our youth and education, you know, we have a myriad of problems. We had a myriad of issues. And I personally believe, some people might disagree, but the one thing that can help us is us working with other people alike, as well as people in Africa. Because other people do it. And when I say other people do it, I mean other cultures do it every day. Do you know what I mean? People just don't talk about it. They don't openly say, look, I work with my people, da 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 da. We can work with anyone. I'm not saying, look, don't work with somebody because they're different. That's not good. Do you know what I mean? We work with other people, but we should be working with other people in order to sort of help our benefit. Do you understand? So Pan-Africanism is an ideology that I think is one of the healing factors and solutions to our forward movement. Practical, and I don't think we've actually really executed it in a way where we haven't. You know, there's a lot of factors, man. The differences in language, tribalism. Do you know what I mean? Now we've got the whole male-female dynamic issues that are going on. You know, there's so many barriers that are there, as well as racism. Do you know what I'm saying? But there are a lot of barriers that are there to prevent us from being able to actually find those solutions through Pan-Africanism. But I personally believe that other than sort of like an individual healing, before anything can be done, you need to heal your mind. You can't do anything with like a real tormented mind, right? You can't. I feel like that unity and oneness will be done through Pan-Africanism. You know, it can give us so many solutions. It's there. The solutions are there. The solutions are there. You know, and Pan-Africanism is at the top of the totem pole when it comes to unity amongst black people around the world. So that's my take on things, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I agree with you wholly, Chris, when it comes to that being a solution. I think there's historically, you know, there's this duality. There's this, you know, the 54 countries of Africa that exist. They were never on the same page.
No.
You know, like you talked about tribalism, there's practices that every tribe or civilization or kingdom had that were different. you'd get Axiom warring with Nubia and
Yeah.
Egypt warring because they were different, you know. So we've always had this conflictual existence,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we all got a shared experience that's not talked about a lot, especially with people that haven't immersed themselves in learning about their history. So to establish, I mean, and then you're further fragmented through slavery, you know, so things have been compounded to make it more difficult to establish a sense of unity amongst us. And then you've got materialism and capitalism that further fractures the ideas of unity.
Sorry,
Because-
Kev, that comes back to the whole individuality
yeah,
thing, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So now everyone's compartmentalized, but what they're thinking about isn't about a collective way to move forward. They're thinking about how to get the money, to get their house and get their car and do the dirt and feed their kids and blah, blah, blah. So what happens, the teachings that they might access to establish information to move forward in a particular way that may enrich their lives, they're not accessing. They've got to go and do their jobs. They've got to go and do this. They've got to go and do that. They've got this starry-eyed about the new BMW or whatever. But, you know, for some people, that's part of the plan. For some people that understand how things are set in motion, there's a reason why these things are set in motion. Because there are some people out there that understand that the original people have got certain skills and abilities that were renowned in ancient times. When certain people came and travelled and saw this wonder and splendour, they couldn't understand it, the wealth and riches. So, once we attain that from these people, how else can we maintain that position? It's not by creating a situation to uplift the people or educate them on their history and how to move forward. It's about keeping them on a certain level so they don't rise up and ascend to the level that they originally started off at. So for me, you know, there's I wish that people had a collective consciousness, yeah, black people, and understood what was going on in the world and the sort of trickery that's manipulating them in regards to understanding who they are, what they represent, and what they can do. Because it's ultimately like this: we've got abilities that we haven't tapped into. Our ancestors showed us that, yeah. But who wants us to ascend to that level again? You know,
That's right.
only the knowledgeable, yeah. And sometimes that knowledge and the access to it, and you see, because Black history is not part of human history, it's been put to the side for a certain reason. But if this was a utopian world, us three would be able to put out a message. People that would gather momentum, and it would snowball, and everyone would be moving in the same direction. But we live in a society that there are opposing forces, yeah, that don't want that to happen. Because, like, we're sitting in this car now, there's a group of guys or group of women talking this now, right here, and over there, and over there. But then when it comes to 9 to 5 day, Monday to Friday, that might be out the window, and real life sets in, and that's put on the back burner. You know, if everyone had the motivation and the drive to move forward and collectively make connections with each other, north, east, south and west, and then come together, it would be a beautiful thing. And for me, if that can be established for the younger generations, if the fathers and the mothers can do that and have an understanding, that's what we need to do to elevate our youth, that would be a beautiful thing.
In your view, what were the key things that we lost during colonization and slavery that we still haven't fully reclaimed?
Is that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about more ways traditions, languages, we're talking about our customs, we're talking about the way you perceive the world, your outlooks. And I say that because we've essentially adopted ones that might not be genetically related to us, okay? Whether it be you speaking French, whether it be you even speaking Pidgin. You know Pidgin English, right? That's a broken dialect, okay? We lost our spirituality because we've adopted other religions and faiths that are non-reflective of, and I think that's had an incredible impact on the way African people, or that people perceive the world and others. Okay, we've lost our self-value. We lost in terms of the way we value ourselves, because now values are looked upon as, what do you materially, what is it that you've attained materially? How much money have you saved in your savings? Do you have a mortgage? Do you have a car? These sort of goals, these sort of things. Are you an entrepreneur? These sort of things are looked upon as more important, as opposed to things that were lost. I think so much was lost in regards to our customs and the way that, we had rite of passage. We have rites of passage. And a lot of our males that we're seeing on the roads doing what they're doing today, a lot of the reason why they're doing what they're doing, sorry, is because they don't have a rites of passage. There's no male network of men to be able to collectively come together and say, look, we need to introduce a cultural rites of passage for our young men. When you go to the Akan, when you go to the Fulani, when you go to the Hausa, when you go to the Yoruba, there are different tribes and cultures that have rites of passage for men. Because other cultures have it, all right? Some other cultures might have something. When you reach the age 13, you have a bar mitzvah, okay? Or you have something to allow you to know that this is the separation from this point in time to this point in time, and from this point in time, this is what is required of you, okay? All right. So we don't have any structures in place, and I think a lot of that was taken away when slavery occurred, when the Ma'afa happened. It wasn't just slavery though, because you had the Islamic slave trade prior to the transatlantic slave trade. So prior to that, the difference was with us was it was more so indentured servitude. So you would understand that for this amount of time, if this tribe man captures somebody from that tribe, it was like you would work for a certain amount of time, okay, and we would give you the option. And this was sort of a well-known thing, right, across Africa. We will give you the option to either join our tribe, or if you're not going to join our tribe, then you can go free, but you're going to stay up. You're going to stay with us for this period of time, okay? It could be X amount of times the sun comes up and goes down, okay? But you're going to work with us. You're going to do that. You can look at our customs, our traditions. You will be here, and we will let you go, okay? You will be free, okay? Because we understood that. When you look at how other groups dealt with it through history, okay, it was more in a very barbaric form, okay? in a sense where you were not made to feel like a human being, all right? So when certain Arab groups took Africans, a lot of men were made eunuchs. Do you know what I'm saying? Their manhood was cut off, right? It's a well-known thing. It's historical. You know, within the slave trade in Europe, there's so many things. You can read about it. So many. Do you know what I'm saying? You can read about all the accounts, yeah. Because I think we know things that we're made to we're told to just forget about it. It happened. That was then. Nah. You know, those impacts have had a major effect on us now, and we can see the ramifications of the effect that it's had on us now. You know, so it's easy to say, well, you know, get your act together, pull your boots up, you know, by your bootstraps, and go to work and work hard. And you know, if you're not a part of this society, then you're doing something wrong. No, it's a lot deeper than that. It's a lot more to it. The nuances are a lot more, you know. So when you're coming back to things that we have lost so much, you know. And I don't know if we could ever sort of, it would take us having to leave certain things alone, right? And I don't know if people, the programming has been so effective regarding sort of like religion, politics, and not seeing beyond all of that to say, you know what, my ancestors, what did they do? Do you know what I mean? That I'm not doing. You know, what is it that I need to do that they did? Do you understand? And the conditions in which where we live, you know, the conditions are a lot different, you know. So that's my sort of take on that question.
Yeah, so...
Sorry, before we go on, I know it's hot in this bitch, yeah? I want to...
put the windows down.
Yeah, I'm going to... Well, on you lot's side, I reckon I'll do that. On my side, I'll leave it... Because obviously I'm trying to keep the sound a certain way.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to keep it so everybody's fucking... You know what I mean? But sorry, carry on.
Yeah, what can I say after Chris said all that? There's not much I can say, but
No, there's
you know,
a lot you can
you know,
answer that.
I understand that there's a evolutionary timeline. Nations rise and fall. Human history shows you that. We had a good run for thousands of years on a certain level, and that changed. But there was manipulation in between that. And in regards to what some of the two main things for me that hurt me that we lost, one was respect for each other. That was knocked right out of us. And it was our communitarian values.
Right.
They smashed communities apart. Yeah, whether it's on a tribal level, whatever level it is. As a people, you can see whether it's Asian, Turkish, whoever, they've still got this community, and to a certain extent African. Yeah, because if you're still in touch with the foundation, you've still got some of those old traditions going on. My brethren goes to the Nigerian village meetings over here that still go on over there, you know, and they touch black base. That movement into adulthood, yeah, they still do a practice in regards to that.
Right.
But you have to still be in touch with that. Not a lot of people are still in touch with that. But in us losing respect and our communitarian sort of values, we've been so fractured that it's hard for us to pull each other back together again. You know, losing respect, especially, you know, our experience is a trauma-based experience.
Yeah.
We live with trauma. We've lost the ability to function normally. Yeah, most of our everyday existence, if you're a person that says to your boy, when you go out on road, you got to talk. If the police stop you, that's trauma-based. If you've got to have any talks with your family about navigating society, it's all based on trauma. So we're not able anymore to exist fully functioning without the existence of trauma inside of us. You know, so when you're on the plantation now, I know, like I said in Tom Burrell's book, Brainwashed, and it shows a parallel from colonial living and existence and behaviour. and how we exist in the same way now. And we was talking about that earlier when we was coming up here, Nev, when I said that, you know, the black man had no power on the plantation. Yeah, his wife was getting raped. His daughter would, the slave master's son, his initiation into manhood would be taking your daughter and sleeping with her, raping her, you know. The mum then, after a time, you know you're going through this stuff on the plantation, but it's wearing you down. Your wife's getting raped by the slave master every other night. What's going to happen when she keeps going? You're going to have these weird thoughts that she might be enjoying it. She's not coming back. Before, when it first started happening, she was all over the place. Now she's become desensitized, and you're starting thinking like, what's wrong with my missus? Is she enjoying it? Is she a hoe? Your man can't look after you because your husband's actually the slave master. Yeah, the man's got no power. He takes you whenever, he dictates what happens to your child. So what can you do for me? Yeah, those are the same sort of things that exist today, the dynamics in relationships that exist today, where we can't function properly. All right, it's over glamorized. Yeah, it's like black fathers don't look after their kids. Yeah, nonsensical, but they push that narrative to make you think a certain way and make other people think a certain way, because majority of black fathers I know, they look after,
they're there for their,
for their kids. Yeah, but at the same time, there's a situation where us functioning as a family, you can see how broken quite a lot of black families are, based on the dynamic that happened in colonial times. So, you know, in regards to a loss, everything Chris said is right. But for us to function like other communities, if we can go back or re-establish that, if we can have respect. Why do you think there's so much killings on the road with black boys? They hate each other unconsciously. There's no respect for the next person. Remember in my time when I existed in the 1980s, and coming from as a 60s child, just on the cusp of 70, you understood, and if you've read, you understood what the streets were like in Britain for black people after Windrush. Yeah, it was tense. But I see another black man, I know what he's going through, I nod to him, everything's good. Yeah, nowadays people are screwing each other. The respect has gone completely, you know. So for me, everything Chris said's right. What I'm saying, I'm feeling. And again, it's about getting those minds together to establish a real black community on a larger scale.
Do you feel that enough is being done to teach our young about the full spectrum of black history, from like Kemet to Malcolm to modern day movements?
No. No, enough is not being done. Within the education system, it's all about what is decided to be put on the curriculum, and it's all about how much you want people to understand. And if we're talking about truth, if we're being honest and truthful, okay, if we really lived in a real, truthful, honest, transparent reality, okay, then you would see that. You would, okay? Because then what you're doing is you're allowing people, okay, to understand and to know the truth, all right? But that's not the case. I'm just going to let you know that your people were blasted with water hoses and you were grovelling on your feet and holding up placards whilst police dogs were biting you, and you were begging for freedom, or you were begging to be looked as equal and seen as the same. I'm going to let you know that. But I'm not going to let you know, I'm not going to tell you about anything prior to when your people were taken. I'm not going to allow that. Because if you understood that, if I taught you that, then you're really understanding your power. I had to go out of my way in my 20s to discover that. I had to read books. I had to go to lectures, look at lectures, I had to ask questions. I had to look at footnotes and do research. I had to do it. So I'm not going to expect that to be taught to me. I'm not. And that's the effort that one would have to go to in order to really grasp, that truth. Because knowledge is truth. Knowledge is enlightenment. And in order for you to gain more, you have to seek it. You have to seek knowledge. It's never going to be delivered to you. It's never just going to be given to you. You have to seek it. And if I'm looking at podcasts of men arguing with women, if I'm looking at podcasts of this drill rapper arguing with the next drill rapper, if I'm looking at podcasts about things that really make no sense, I'm wasting my time. I'm not learning anything about myself. Do you understand? And these are the questions that it's almost as if one would have to ask or say, what do you deem as more important? What do you look at as a priority? Okay, all right. Because we're only here we are here for a short time, and in that time that we're here, what is it you want to know about yourself? All right. Do you know I'm around the Vietnamese community, and I have some good friends who are Vietnamese, and I'll tell you one thing. Most of them, and I'm talking about 14, 15-year-olds, right, are able to speak their language, cook traditional foods that are Vietnamese, eat traditional foods. They can tell you about their history, okay? They have a good understanding of who they are. They have a very good understanding of who they are. And that's because that's passed down. That's passed down from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next. And I think over here, what's happened over time is that we've sort of, and I'm honestly guilty of the same thing, right? We've adopted other people's perceptions of we've adopted other people's perceptions of what reality is. Okay, all right. When every group really truly does hold their own reality, and they have their expression of their culture. What culture are we expressing? Do you know what I mean? On a daily basis, you have to ask yourself, the things that I learn and who I am, what sort of expression is that? You know what I mean? So that's my answer to that question. That's my answer. In terms of that being taught, real black history, who built the pyramids? Where were the pyramids? Was Egypt in Africa? Who was the first tribe? Did the Nubians have pyramids before those in Egypt? Who was King Nama? The TRAORÉ Empire, the Mali Empire, the Axum Empire, all these great empires, Benin Empire. No, these things they're not going to be taught. They're not. You have to seek it. You have to find it.
It's funny, I went to Black Cultural Market in Brixton, and there was a Ghanaian guy selling these lovely t-shirts with different symbols that make different things in Ghanaian. So I go to him, Wagadu. He said, Ibrahim Traoré?
Ibrahim Traoré.
Yeah. I said, no, that's the ancient name for Ghana. So he needed, as a Ghanaian
education.
Man, he needed education.
He needed education.
Yeah. I'm a guy that is African in ancestry, but not African in present day. You know what I mean? But I'm educating you because I'm educating myself. Now, all I've got to say is that for the Secretary of Education, or any high-level policy makers out there that work in education, let me say this now. Please, 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 forget about the words that are a trigger for you lot. decolonizing the curriculum. That seems to be a trigger. Please, please, please start putting Black history somewhere in the curriculum. If you talk about street crime and knife crime, it'll be a contributing factor towards not eliminating it, but giving Black children a grounding where their self-worth exists positively and they feel all right about themselves and their history. It will help with that. It will help with young Black people moving forward in their occupational dreams and desires to become something more than what they are at that moment in time. It will do so much for society in general to have an understanding of what we went through and how we can connect as a human race and be okay together. Because Chris said no straight away to the question. I'll say no straight away as well. But why isn't it happening? That's the upsetting part of it. It's like this, if you see a man on the street, that's how you know society, as much as it's technological, is savage. Because if you see a man on the street bleeding, I don't even know Chris well, but I feel his energy, I've seen his art momentarily, and he hangs out with you. So I know if there's a guy there and it's late night and he wants help, more than likely all three of us will help him. So who's residing at the top levels that don't want to help people? Why are you not helping people? For me, it's too confusing, and then people want to get upset when they consider people to be are becoming too pro-black. Yeah, it's not pro-blackness. It's fighting against the resistance of this oppressive sort of regime where we can't even have our own history delivered out to the masses so that things end up being better for us. So please do something, because it's not happening. You know.
That, you know, it's weird because it's kind of connecting to the next question. And how should we as Black people be conducting ourselves with each other, socially, spiritually, economically, in today's climate?
Francis Cress Wilson said in the ISIS papers that it's very easy for us to be able to change, and all we need to do are these things: respect each other, as in be nice to each other, be courteous to each other, yeah. Respect our neighborhoods. So if you see any sort of like trash, any rubbish on the floor, pick that up, put it in a bin. Or it might sound funny what I'm saying. It might sound like, nah, somebody else can deal with it. But your neighborhood is a reflection, or your area is a reflection of you. Okay.
So to jump in, like hold that thought. But what you're saying is not off or anything like that. When I was in Gambia, I think what was it? Was it every Sunday or every Tuesday? I can't remember. But they had this thing called set out, where the let's say like this road that we're on, everybody who lives here, they all come out and they clean the area. All of them do it together as a community. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to jot that in.
That's right. Because it shows that you have pride, you know, for your area, for your environment, and again, that's a reflection of you, who you are. Respect women. Men should respect women. Women should respect men. Okay? So we need to stop looking at our women as sexual objects or conquests. Okay? A lot of the issues and problems that we have are solvable. We can solve them, you know. It's not impossible. But the question is do we want to solve them? And are they looked upon as a priority? All right? So refresh my mind with that question again.
The question was, how should we as black people, be conducting ourselves with each other socially, spiritually, economically in today's climate?
We need to understand the nature of our environment. We need to understand the nature of where we are. When you understand the nature of your environment, it's a lot easier to navigate your environment. Kevin spoke about what's looked upon as priority. Most people, 9 to 5, I have to pay that bill. I've got this bill to pay. I need to pay that rent. I need to do this. I need to do that. Okay? So people aren't looking at things as priorities. Okay? We're being solution orientated. Other communities practically hold a monopoly on certain industries. Not industries, but markets. Okay? So let's look at, let's say for example, the Asian, all right, East Asian, they might do nails. Okay? They might do nails, all right? So they sort of have their own links from where to get goods to help each other to bring in. They have a system in place, okay, and it works. The Southeast Asian community, and I'm not generalizing, but I'm just going by what I see in my particular areas, okay, and what you might see. I'm guessing you guys see it too. When you're looking at sort of takeaways, chicken and chip shops, and butchers, do you know what I'm saying? I know a lot of black people in the area that I live in. There's no black-owned butchers, but we have to go to Asian people for our hair products because they hold a monopoly on that market. All right, it's incredibly expensive for us to be able to purchase our own goods that we use. Okay, all right, and also the butchers in terms of where we get our meats and foods and things like that. Okay, so we have to rely on others, right? It's a lot more difficult when you're trying to get people who see things differently to see things on the same page. Okay, so I was talking about a code that we need to have, because everybody, let's be real, let's be honest, everybody has a code. You have a code of conduct. This is what you do, this is what you don't do. The Italian mob had a code. No women, no children. You're going to go out there, if you're going to do anything, no women, no children. We respect our women. We respect our children, okay? You can't do anything without it passing through this particular person, right? And I think that's what, in order for us to get out of this situation that we're in terms of hardships, we need to re-establish a code, okay? And I think that's personally, that's what I think. I think that a code needs to be put in place for everybody to abide by. And when we abide by these codes, it will be a lot easier, because nothing within reality is operable without rules. Nothing. Everything abides by rules. You have to have rules, you have to have a code. And I think a lot of us, we don't want to live. I think that's been sort of a rebellious sort of thing that we've had, okay? And it's sort of like when you're young and you're growing up in school and you're sort of being told, well, you're not doing that right, da-da-da-da-da. You know, I had a teacher tell me when I was young, you'll grow up to be nothing, right? Honest to where my parents lay, I had a white teacher, I'll never forget it, and I remember his name, and I remember how he said it, and I was the only black child in the class. And he said, you'll grow up to be nothing. And there's a reason why I made a mistake, I did something wrong, but that was his response to me. And that stuck with me. That stuck with me, all right? So there are ways that we can get out of the situation that we're in. There's that if we're talking about I mean, there's so many things that divide us. When you're talking about religion, coming back to what Kevin said, naming all the things that divide us, we can name a list of over 100 things. Okay, but there are also things that can connect us, and I think we need to look at those things that can connect us more so than that which divides us. Yeah, in order for us to move forward.
Can you read the question out again?
Sorry, it's a long one.
No, it's good.
It was the conducting ourselves, isn't it? So I was saying, how should we as black people be conducting ourselves with each other, socially, spiritually, economically, in today's culture and society, climate?
All right, I'm going to start with socially and then read out the next one when I finish. All right, Nev?
Yeah.
So, Chris has said a lot that I won't even touch on because it's all right. A sort of utopian perspective this is. So I come out of my door. I see someone I don't know that's black. Hi, how you doing? Are you okay today? Yeah. I walk down the road. I go into the shop. I say good morning. Someone comes through the door. I open the door and hold the door open. These basic parts of a real strong moral compass. You know, just being nice. It should be an innate part of our being. But obviously we've been manipulated socially. So I go somewhere, there's someone that asks me a question. I don't mind giving them an answer. There's an old lady, an old black lady trying to get across the road. I hold onto her arm and I take her across the road. There's some kids over there messing about. I'm able to go over to them and say, calm down. Yeah, you know, you got to operate in a certain way. They don't pull out the knives and cuss me. Yeah. Just a kindness and a caring and a thinking about the next person. That would be a beautiful thing. Someone comes up to you, because we're so twisted nowadays, everyone's got an agenda or an ulterior motive. Someone says, I haven't got any money, another black man or a black woman, and you give them £2 or a £5 or whatever you can afford. Because we're supporting each other socially. We're being kind to each other socially. You know. What's the next one now?
Spiritually.
So spiritually, you know, it sort of goes hand in hand with that kindness. Yeah, there's so many different religious denominations out there that people follow, but there's a connection because it's all about the same thing. It's about being righteous. It's about being kind. It's not like Chris said. It's about following rules and following a code. Yeah, that takes you to a place where you are treating people nicely. Whatever you're following, in whatever capacity, whether you're pouring water for libation or you're going to the Christian church, there should be a convergence of mind spiritually, where we're all on the same platform, going to the same place. What's the next one, Nev?
Economically.
Economically.
When you say so, I just need to share something after you say.
No, say it, Chris.
All right. So can I just add to economically? Yeah. Because I didn't really touch on that. Black people, okay, all people are, but I know this, black people are some of the most creative people. We can make, listen, out of nothing, literally materials, yeah, we can look around us and create something amazing, commodify it and sell it, okay? The thing is, alright, I'll give this out and then I'll shut up. And then Kev, you're gonna take over with that one, yeah? Go to your church, speak to your pastor. Ask your pastor if you can rent out the car park for one day. Publicize the day to other people who create. Allow the pastor to know that each stand will pay at least £20 to the church. So the church gets a fee. Ask the pastor if it's okay to sell goods that people have made outside of the church. Set up stalls outside of the church. You can do this once or every other week outside of the church. Do it because it supports the local church if you go to church, and do it because other people who have their goods on those stands can sell those goods to other people. You're creating a market, okay? You're creating a market. You can do it every other week, okay? Or you can do it every week, all right? So this is an idea, one idea that you can go out and do in a community. Now think about if that was done in every borough, within every 5 miles, every weekend or every other weekend. You are creating your goods, you are selling your goods, and all you've paid is £20. It might take 2 sales for you to get that £20 back. If I'm selling frame pictures for like £10 each, they're 2 sales. I've made my money back. Everything else that I make now is profit. Okay? Sorry, Kevin.
No problem. We had the platform for generating wealth, yeah, or money that could support us in a particular manner, yeah. Now, some of you understand it as an old practice that I don't hear about it anymore, but partner. All you needed to do in modern day is expand on the partner practice. So you collectively put in money, except it moves away from getting your money back and spending it on whatever you need. You reinvest the money.
Yeah.
You start buying property. You start opening shops. You start doing something that will give you some financial stability and some financial growth. So we've already had a way that we could operate in that would give us some money. Nothing's changed. I think what it is, and what Chris said is completely right. You can do all those things and start generating wealth, and move in a certain direction. But like I said before, we exist with trauma inside of us. We've come from a place, whether it is Ouagadougou, Axiom, Egypt, Benin, Yoruba, Monomatapa, Great Zimbabwe, wherever it was, we had the resources and wealth beyond imagination. My friend from Ghana used to say that his great-great-granddad used to walk along the beach and pick up gold nuggets. Yeah. So we had the wealth. It was taken away because economy was a big thing at that time in the 1400s, and privateering. England was broke. They had the 100-Year War, Wat Tyler, because people were rising up because they were so poor. England only had silver over here. So once people started navigating the 7 seas like the Portuguese and the Spanish, and they'd reached Africa and seen gold and diamonds, etc. And materials that could generate wealth to make rubber or to produce sugar or produce coffee, yeah, that was a wrap. All right, so that was one thing. We've lost our wealth and our riches. But then secondly, what come was a level of degradation and poverty, humiliation and dehumanization that left us with nothing, not even our self-worth. But economically, we're at the bottom rung of the ladder. To come out and step up the ladder, there always seems to have been because of systemic racism more than anything else, because systemic racism is quite a funny thing. Once you put things in play, like the skill-based means for immigration in the 1970s, 1960s and 70s, that system operated without a racist person having to operate it. It was just a policy and procedure that operated towards a certain group anyway. So getting into this country and making money became increasingly hard because they had this policy that only centered on a certain set of people not coming in the country. So there's so many opposing forces in regards to us earning money. How can there be such a disparity in arts, education, healthcare? And when I say arts, whether it's like artists and galleries, or TV and shows and music, how can there be such a disparity when there is such a lack of representation at the top level? What is that saying? Why is there no black bosses, or hardly any? Yeah. Why is the SLT in education in urban areas predominantly white? Why are they predominantly white, earning a certain amount of money, when there's a few teachers that are earning some all right money, and then you see littered at the bottom the TAs that are getting lower paid money? There's a structure that exists that doesn't allow you, or makes you feel that's all you can do. It also makes you feel like I can't earn anymore. This is my position. So you don't move on from that. So, you know, if we've got the means to earn the money and make things better, but like I said before, materialism has created a different situation in our minds. You know, I might be thinking of, for me to think about the next man or woman, it's hard work. When I'm looking at that family over there that's got more than me, so all I can do is concentrate on me getting more than them, or rising up to them. My thoughts about a global or community initiative that pushes us financially forward is hard work in a society that makes you feel a certain way about your own lifestyle and your own wealth. How can you watch social media and not get captivated by it? They know what they're doing. You know, so it takes a real set of strong-minded people to start pushing forward an agenda that will make us become economically viable on a certain plane, to start generating wealth for us to sustain a certain standard of living. But if we don't talk and connect, and the funny thing is, we can have that synergy through social media. Yeah, we've got those connections. You know what I mean? It's just for people to start connecting. And again, it's like anything. You know, I go back to colonialism a lot with the house Negro and the field Negro. Our fragmentation and our lack of connection still exists from then. There's a divide between us. It's been reinforced over time through capitalism and materialism. But we had it from back then. You know, as soon as black people started being able to earn a certain wage, yeah. Remember, we was ordained in gold in our ancient times. What has happened? Remember, I talked about Tom Burrell's book. So we was ordained in gold, then we went through hardship and having nothing, and as soon as we were able to raise our head up, what were we back in? You know what I mean? Yeah. The behaviours haven't changed, but the environment's changed. So what we do now, because we're so hungry to just have something, as long as we get anything that's immediate, we feel happy. But understand the manipulation. If there's 40 million pieces of information processed unconsciously in your mind every second, and there's only, 11 million pieces processed every second, and only 40 pieces processed consciously every second, understand what part of your mind has been manipulated. Yeah. Psychodynamic theorists think that most of your behavior is driven by the unconscious mind. If it is, if you see how black people operate, it seems like it. Yeah, because we have conscious awareness, but we're not operating in a conscious way. You know.
True.
Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso is making waves globally. What are your thoughts on his leadership and his revolutionary stance?
I think, okay, right. I think that man is a symbol of hope. I think that man is a symbol of courage. I think that man has stood up to colonial forces such as France and has really allowed the African world to know that they don't need anybody to rule over them. That they are capable of wanting their true independence. And when I mean true independence, I mean true sovereignty, away from the IMF and anything to do with oppressing them. They don't want to do anything with that, and I think he's taken their mindset in a place that Africa needs to move forward and go. So he's, I mean, we had the same thing with like Kwame Ture and there's a few other African people that have popped up in history in the past, and they've stood up and they've said no to oppression from Western powers. Okay. Now the issue is how long will this go on for, and how far will it, manifest? If it does manifest the way that I'm sure most people want to see it manifest. And when I say most people, I'm talking about not just the people from Burkina Faso, but other, African countries that want to see this, even countries in the Caribbean, right? How far will it manifest? How far will it go? Ibrahim Traoré is a young man, he's in his mid-30s, right? And I think, but because Tupac said it, he said, by the time you get to 30, 35, 40, I think he said like late 35, the revolutionary energy that's in you, you're sort of burnt out, right? Because all you want to do from that moment is raise your children, raise your family, you've done your thing. You just want to but the energy that's in you is there from your youth, you're 18, all the way up through to 35. So it's interesting to see that playing out with this man. And it's interesting to see how many young minds that he's managed to captivate with his courage to step up and to say to Macron, no, you know what I mean? You're not going to have anything to do with our economy anymore. We're going to sever ties with you. He's managed to galvanize 3 other African nations, to side with him. And I think it's just a matter of more African leaders. Now, African leaders have always had Western interests step in and usurp them for resources. And when I say usurp their sort of trust, because some of them might genuinely have trust. Some of them are planted there to actually dismantle the economic structure of the country and to keep those countries in perpetual poverty. Okay, but this man has said no. This man has said no to that. So I'm keen to see how, and this is why I'm saying I'm just want to see how this blooms, right? I'm keen to see other African nations step forward and say, no to the tyranny that has been oppressing them for time since their independence or prior to their independence. Because let's be honest and real, no African country has ever really truly been independent. It's never been independent of Western influence, you know, and manipulation, you know. And this man is a man that's saying, look, I'm tired of you're not going to manipulate us. You know, we're not going to have anything to do with you. How can you be given, I think it's 80, right? Is it over like 85% of their national GDP goes to France?
Something like that, man.
Something ridiculous like that. And when you look at the conditions that those people are living in, it's ridiculous to have any nation live like that whilst your nation takes their wealth to thrive. You're dealing with a devil. You're dealing with a devil. If you think it's okay to have children walking around, I mean, when did they have the hurricane? It was what, 2012? 2011, 2012. Those people have never managed to really put their infrastructure together the way that they're able to. They haven't actually got up and managed to sort of fortify themselves as a nation. Now we know why that is. The historical context of Haiti and what they did in the past. But I'm just irregardless of that, when you look at a country like that and you look at what they're dealing with now, only an evil nation could say, I'm going to take 85% of your GDP capital and it's going to go back into our country, and I'm going to leave your country desolate the way it is, and I'm going to pretend like I'm giving you aid, and the aid that you get it be very minimal. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. So Ibrahim Traoré is saying, you're not going to do us like that. You're not going to do me like that. You're not. And all of these youth, these young people are galvanizing the 18 to 35-year-olds. They're galvanizing behind him. Other countries are looking at that. It's a matter of time before Nigeria step in, because they're getting tired. They're dealing with it. They're dealing with a lot of hardship. If you know what's going on in Sierra Leone right now, what's going on with the youth, big epidemic of Kush that's being spread out there, that I believe is an agenda to mess up the young minds so they don't turn around to be revolutionaries. That's what I believe. That's my opinion. If you get the youth, if you're able to get the youth, they're not going to stand up and fight. You've got their minds. You've controlled their minds. If you can get them hooked onto a substance that will not allow them to see their oppression, that will not allow them to fight for their freedom, then you've got them. And that's what I believe that epidemic is with the Kush. Ibrahim Traoré is saying, nah, not here. He linked up with Russia, linked up with China. Let's see how the flower blooms. You know, that's my thing with that man. You know, personally, I have nothing but admiration for him. You know, and a lot of African leaders are sellouts, man. They sell their own people out. For what? What are you going to sell your people out for? You know, for nothing. Money that you in a lifetime you can't even enjoy. It's scarcity. Scarcity, poverty has allowed these people to do what they've done for this long. You understand? But it will take the young generation to wake up and hold coups like he did. He held a coup. He said, no, I have not been diplomatically elected. I'm going to hold a coup, and you're not going to take down my regime, and I'll get backing from other nations that want to see my country thrive. Now, Russia and China, some people might argue that they have their own interests. Everybody has their own interests. I am never giving you, in this world, nothing is free. I'm not giving you anything for free. There has to be some sort of exchange. There has to be some sort of exchange. I know the gold reserves that are there in Burkina Faso, Russia has an interest in that. Not only will it improve their economy, okay, and China has an interest in certain things. But it's a mutual exchange. So even if they are stepping in to aid and help in those ways, you ain't touching my boy. You're not touching my boy. My boy, my guy here, he's looking out for my nation, you know. He's got something that I need, you know, to help my people, you know. You're not touching my boy, France. That's where they're coming from. They're coming from that angle. Other African nations need to follow suit. Congo needs to follow suit. Everything that you see happening in the Congo is a result of the West. Children, those soldiers that you see getting children to mine cobalt, diamonds, gold, those poisonous toxins that we like to use, they're digging phones that we have, the computers, the luxuries that we enjoy. They are suffering for us to enjoy those luxuries. What's the most you keep a phone nowadays? 18 months? You want to upgrade your phone? Some poor child his hands are like poisoned. He's dying. You just get another child to do it. Right? TRAORÉ saying no. Not on my turf. So yeah, that's my take on him. Enough respect to Ibrahim Traoré.
It is. He's come as a beacon of hope, no doubt. I mean, and embodying, say you take Nama from Egypt, you take Zoskels or Izana from Axiom, you take Shabaka or Pi or Kashta from Nubia or Kush or Tarseti, whatever you want to call it. You put in Dutty Bookman, you put in Malcolm X,
Right.
you put in Martin Luther King, you put in Harriet Tubman, you put in Tucson Overture, you put in Ivan Van Sertima, you put in Chancellor Williams, you put in, who else? You put in everyone. An embodiment of that in 2025 is Ibrahim. Moving forward in a direction that the global minority doesn't want to see happening. Now, it's funny that in a push for righteousness, it's just like with Patrice Lumumba. In a push for righteousness, there's always death. But what does that tell you about the makeup of a certain set of people that reside at the top? If there's a move towards self-improvement, why would you not let a country or countries want to establish self-improvement? You know, it's weird that at any given point in time, and even though there's a movement, what I don't understand sometimes, I do understand because I understand trauma a little bit, but whether it was, you know, Joy Gardner died, Roger Sylvester, Mark Duggan, whoever, whatever the circumstances, Sean Bell, whoever else, it wasn't till George Floyd died that the proverbial muzzle was taken off people's mouths, black people, and they could talk anything and have a like, yeah, all right, we need some equality. And if we're not getting that, which will never be established, we want equity. And beyond that, we want liberation. But we have to go through these steps first. And there was an open door to speak up. That door's been shut again. But he's the guy that's reopening the door on another level. You know?
That's true.
And what the part I don't like, what he's doing doesn't gather traction like bad things for black people. George Floyd dies, everyone goes on a march, there's a global movement. There should be a global movement now for what's going on here. There should be marching now in response to what he's doing, in support of what he's doing, and everyone start having a similar mindset about what the next move is in regards to us establishing self-fulfillment by us being reliant on ourselves and being able to do things for ourselves.
Would that come under the same thing you were saying, like the code?
That will come under the code.
The code maybe would be the...
It would fall under the code.
But
back to what Kevin's saying. Back to what Kevin's saying about sort of like having enough pride, okay, within one's self-identity, and saying, do you know what, we need to establish this code of respect, all right? Because that's what it starts with, that code of self-respect, you know. But yeah, now continue, man.
Yeah, I haven't got much more to say. I'm happy that, you know, it's funny that there are the global minority at the higher echelons of society don't want to see certain people do any better. And usually a man like TRAORÉ, you know how it goes, and it's been tried, it's assassination. It's funny, it's even though we weren't in America, it's got this vibe of waiting for a black president. Yeah, because people were dubious that that would even happen. When it happened, people were thinking, are they going to kill him? Yeah. And you're in a strange space with Ibrahim. You're hoping that he moves forward, but you also feel there's an agenda for him not to move forward.
Of course.
And if that happens, that in itself will create a different situation. And I can only hope that, I'm hoping it don't happen, and that it gathers traction and everyone starts, anywhere where there's black people, start moving in a certain direction.
Do you think, sorry Kev, saying, do you think enough's being publicised about this man?
No,
and do you think that's for an intention, intentionally?
I think intentionally, and also, like we've talked about in regards to people concerning themselves with, you know, what's different is when something's far away. It's like out of sight, out of mind. You're all the way in Africa. In countries like this in America, we've been conditioned, or people have been conditioned, that that's nothing to do with us. Yeah, unless it's happening on our shores, that's something else. You know, so just like George Floyd, how everyone moved in a direction because of that atrocity, move in that direction in regards to something positive happening or getting established as a consequence of this man moving in a certain way. You know, so for me, not enough traction, nothing. I mean, social media should be littered. There should have been marches now in certain countries, just like George Floyd, from black people wanting not only Ibrahim to rise up in Africa, but for us all to rise up in a particular way and spark that in all of us, you know. So,
you know what? There's been like maybe one or two, but not enough at all.
I mean, I went. Well, a side note. I remember when I went to the in Brixton, the reparations march. This is what I'm talking about, and sometimes it's really depression. I went to this reparations march in Brixton. It's funny because I said to my missus, she told me about it, and her dad's somewhat of a black historian, so I WhatsApped him in Jamaica. I said, yeah, Mr. Robertson, going to the reparations march, like, I need to go and do something like that. And what's upsetting for me, North London don't have that. Like, you know, there's certain areas that are in touch with blackness on a certain level. If you're in North London, you won't really get that. So I was happy to travel up to Brixton. It was lovely. They had the stalls out, they're selling black books, they're selling incense, they're selling creams, they're selling all the stuff. There's quite a few people. It's like a Naya Bingi sort of tune getting played by the Rustas, and they're doing some drum stuff, and it's sounding really nice, and they're chanting, and I'm there. I've got my t-shirt on with Fred Hampton and Malcolm X, all these faces, and I'm there like, yeah, this is me. Because ultimately, if we were existing in a utopia, there should be reparations for that 16.5 billion. That was, you know, the money that was paid out to those 3,000 families that got paid out for the loss of their slave earnings. Yeah. So there should be reparations. How it's distributed, I don't know, but I was there for that. Yeah, reparations is good for me. And then it was weird because everything was going well, the people there, and then there was a moment when the guy said, we're going to march. There didn't look like enough people to march, so that already got me upset. Like, if this is going on for this cause, please, if I was a taxpayer, I was paying out to them slave masters till 2015. Of course I'm going to come up and want some reparations even from hearing that knowledge, understanding that. They said, everyone go over there and meet, we're going to start the march. So I'm on my jack, so I just go by myself and stand over where my man's instructed. I'm waiting there, no one ain't moving. So my man says it again, everyone that's joining the march, move over there. 20 minutes have gone past, no one's moving. My man, he's holding it down, but you can hear he's getting annoyed. I'm far away from him, but I've identified with his projection. I'm getting annoyed now. Yeah, like, what are these people doing? Why are they moving? Hey, I was there for half an hour, no one moved. I just got on the train and went home. Like, but that sometimes is the epitome of how people behave. It's like it became something else. It became, all right, let's just buy some books, let's just buy some food.
As opposed to marching.
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
So the whole cause had been dismantled now. You know, and in
that's from within, really.
Yeah. And in certain circumstances, it's upsetting that it doesn't even get started. Because starting up is hard work.
Right.
But starting up and then it disbanding or getting dismantled is even more hard to deal with. So with TRAORÉ, it's good to see that nothing's been dismantled yet. He's still alive, he's still moving forward. People are jumping on the bandwagon and looking at him. I mean, it's like Gaddafi. Same sort of thing with Gaddafi. And what they do, they ostracize people and talk nonsense about them. Then they're assassinated. And then for a long timeline, there's this narrative that puts them in a negative light. I'm hoping that it's not that way, and the insightful understand what this man represents.
All right, last question, as time is evading us. What does an ideal future for black people globally look like to you? Can you paint that picture?
One where we're given our own autonomy to be able to have things as other people do. What I mean by that is a community that is left alone to be able to thrive independently. Without sort of any external influences saying that if you do anything on the basis of you being pro-black, you're being racist. One where the male and female dynamics have been dealt with, because for me that's I think, not even just for me, I think that's an issue. And I think social media hasn't helped that issue. One where we are, as adults, more responsive to our youth, and our youth are able to confide in us and be able to rely on us to be able to help them. One where we build each other up. Okay, so what I mean by that is, as Kevin said earlier, we used to have partner back in the day. Okay, and it's almost like it was a pyramid scheme that worked for everybody. Yeah, Like everybody would walk away with something. You understand? So we can't really rely on a bank for a loan. If you can't rely on a bank for a loan and you have a business idea, who can you turn to? You're not going to turn to the man shotting on the roads, because that might turn into something else. So one way where we can rely on each other economically and socially, but practically speaking, I think the first thing, in order for us to get to that point, because now what we're talking about are solutions, right? So in order for us to get to anything solution orientated, the first thing, come back to what Kev said, that we need to have is that common decency and moral respect for each other. Because if we can't get past that, then it's all long, innit? It's long. So in order for us to get to a point where we're all, no one's ever gonna all thrive. Yeah, there's no society where everybody thrives. But in order for us to improve our situation, I think the first thing that we need to do is we need to stop hating on each other. So we need to stop, and I'm going to repeat that, we need to stop hating on one another. Black people need to stop hating on each other. We need to stop that. That's a programming. That's a programming that we have in terms of, I want to be better than him. I'm jealous than her. I'm jealous of her. These things hold us back. These things hold us back. So we need to have more self-respect, more dignity, more moral respect, and we need to see each other as equals, you know, in order for us to be able to really move forward. So if we can start with that, more self-respect, less hating on each other, less talking down, speaking bad about one another, more seeing each other as, when I look in the mirror, or when I look at you, it's almost like I'm looking in the mirror, and I have respect. We need more of that. We need that first.
I hear you, brother.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been to that was my time, an all-dayer, and everyone's happy. Yeah, you've gone to someone's house, and there's great conversation. You go to the bank, and you draw out some money, and you have a pleasant conversation with the bank teller. Whatever it is, you know, you go to your friend's house and you say, oh man, I need to pay this rent or whatever, and they give you £500. They say, pay me back whenever. Yeah, there has to be a level where, like Chris said, in regards to the respect, the common decency, and the level of support you're willing to give the next man or woman. We have to have that. Anything less than that, and I'm mindful that the system operates to a certain extent in opposition to that. But collectively, it's like anything. You know, political powers run the world. There's only a small minority of them. The global masses run the world, really. So once we can unify together and do the right things, we can establish an environment that is 99.9% filled with happiness and joy, rather than darkness and despair and worry. And ultimately, we're the sun people. We come from that place. If you have an understanding of how an environment impacts on people, just like Chinese people and genetically how their eyes are because of the reflection of the sun off ice or whatever, they had to adapt over thousands of years. People in cold climates operated a certain way and behave a certain way. People that were in hot climates felt something else and operated in a certain way. People often say, on the odd occasion in debate and conversation, how come black people haven't gone mad and revolted and killed everyone and done madness? Because we're not them people. What you see on the TV that's given us this wholly negative stereotype of black men, black women, black children is completely the opposite of our nature. We're the people that basked in the sun, had gold, enjoyed ourselves, had beautiful women, beautiful queens, handsome kings. We had abundance of everything because of the Nile and other rivers, even in Mesoamerica around there where black people were traveling down. The original people from there, when they saw the Africans, imagine only a few people like Abukari II, when he went down there, might have got, of course, and ended up there. There are a small proportion of, in the book, like Ivan Van Sertima would say, Negroes. Yeah, Nubian Negroes or whatever Negroes would get there. But then rain, and they'd have Negro head figures as main representations of people that were venerated, held in high esteem. That's the power of us. The joy and the splendor and the wonder that we emit from us as a people has been stifled. But all we need to do is to operate and connect together in a way to make that re-emerge again. It's not going to be easy, especially when we had to think about where to park today. You had to get on your phone and think about paying congestion just for us to come here. There are factors at work that steer you off course.
Right.
If you're willing and able to stay on track, yeah, and have support behind the scenes, we can move forward in the best way. You know, and that's actually freaking me out a little bit.
What you see? Did you see that? The plane just flew there, but did you see the two jets on the other side of it?
Yeah.
That's mad. That obviously that's someone of quote unquote importance.
Because there was an army. They even looked like there was an old school plane from Killer of Killers there.
Yeah.
That flew past.
Right, but before that they had the what was it? You showed me the what do you call it? They look like military helicopters flying past first, isn't it? Yeah.
You know what's going on, right?
Not really.
Yesterday.
What?
Okay, that's another thing. Like the
plane crash.
Israeli airstrike.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
To Iran,
Yeah. So yeah, boom.
But yeah, that's it.
That's
But even that, even that.
You see that there? The next one.
Yeah. Even that could be related to the black experience. Even warring over land and the killing of how many people. And you're seeing little kids with shrapnel and their arm blown off and all that. Savagery is sort of part and parcel of today's existence. Yeah? And that savage nature, we've been manipulated in a certain way to have that. You know? You see young street kids, even though it's an over-representation, what it does for you in your mind is make you think that everyone's like that. Jesus Christ.
You see that, bro?
Yeah.
Did you see that, Chris?
I missed it.
Bro, a plane, another big plane
With
two fighter planes on the other side of it as well.
There might be some more. There's a lot of planes.
That like in that short space of time, there's too much stuff.
Yeah.
There's too much activity flying. What is over that side?
Hey, next minute you see a UFO.
Sure. Maybe, you know.
I'd love to see that, I tell you.
All right, guys,
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap that up. Peace and love, people. Stay tuned. Love.
Wicked.
Yeah, man. Respect. Yeah, man. Boom.
Chris. Wicked, man.
Yo, what's outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. The vortex. They look outside themselves, trying to know themselves.